Most people think discipline is about motivation. The Stoics would say that belief alone is why most people stay weak. Motivation is emotional, and emotions are unreliable. Discipline, according to Stoicism, is not built on feelings. It is built on law. Unbreakable people do not ask themselves, "Do I feel like it?" They ask something far colder. What must be done, regardless of how I feel? That single shift rewires the mind. Here is the first brutal truth most people avoid. If your comfort decides your actions, your life will always stay small. Comfort is not peace. Comfort is resistance to growth. The Stoics saw comfort as a quiet enemy, not loud, not obvious, but always present, always convincing you to delay, to soften effort, to choose ease over progress. Marcus Aurelius wrote for himself, not for praise. And what he reminded himself of constantly was this: you are not here to feel good. You are here to be effective. Effectiveness requires discipline. And discipline begins the moment you stop negotiating with yourself. Most people lose battles before the day even starts. They wake up and ask, "How do I feel today?" Stoics woke up and declared, "This is what I will do today." They understood something most never grasp. The mind must be commanded, or it will command you. Here is the first Stoic law that rewires the brain. Your mood is irrelevant. Your duty is not. Read that slowly. Your mood changes daily. Your duty does not. If you wait to feel ready, you will stay untrained. Stoics acted first. Emotion followed, or didn't. Either way, the work got done. This is why Stoics appeared inhuman to others. They were not driven by excitement. They were not stopped by boredom. They did not seek pleasure in discipline. They sought mastery, and mastery is built in silence, repetition, and resistance. Here is another uncomfortable reality. Every time you avoid effort, you teach your brain that avoidance works. The brain learns fast. It does not care about your future. It cares about immediate relief. Stoics knew this. That is why they practiced voluntary discomfort. Cold, fatigue, silence, solitude, not to punish themselves, but to train their nervous system. A trained nervous system does not panic. It does not procrastinate. It does not collapse under pressure. Discipline is not about intensity. It is about non-negotiability. Stoics did not ask, "How hard should I push today?" They asked, "What must be done, and why am I not doing it yet?" That question alone exposes weakness instantly. Most people break under pressure because they have never rehearsed it. Stoics rehearsed hardship daily. They imagined loss. They imagined failure. They imagined exhaustion. So when difficulty arrived, it felt familiar. And what is familiar does not break you. Here is the harsh Stoic conclusion. If your mind controls your actions, you are not disciplined. If your principles control your actions, nothing can stop you. Discipline is not motivation. Discipline is identity. You do not try to be disciplined. You decide who you are, and then you act accordingly. Let that sink in, because once this law is understood, your excuses stop sounding reasonable. And when excuses die, discipline begins. At some point, you must confront an uncomfortable fact. You are not undisciplined because life is hard. You are undisciplined because you have trained yourself to escape discomfort. Every delay, every excuse, every "I'll do it tomorrow," none of it is accidental. It is conditioning. The Stoics understood something that modern minds refuse to accept. Your habits are not neutral. They are votes for the kind of person you are becoming. Every time you choose ease over effort, you cast a vote for weakness, and the brain remembers. This is why discipline feels painful at first. You are not just starting a habit. You are fighting a trained system inside your own head, a system that has learned: avoid effort, seek comfort, delay pain. The Stoics did not negotiate with that system. They overruled it. Here is the second brutal Stoic law. What you avoid today becomes stronger tomorrow. Avoid the workout. Resistance grows. Avoid the task. Procrastination strengthens. Avoid discomfort. Fear multiplies. Avoidance compounds. Stoics cut it early. They attacked resistance the moment it appeared. Not angrily, not emotionally. Decisively. Most people wait for clarity. Stoics acted in confusion. Most people wait for confidence. Stoics acted in doubt. Because discipline is not built in certainty. It is built in movement despite uncertainty. Think about this carefully. If you only act when you feel good, your discipline is owned by your mood, and moods are weak masters. Stoics replaced mood-based living with principle-based living. Principles do not fluctuate. This is why Stoics created routines that did not depend on emotion. Wake up, act, train, regardless. Work without debate. Endure without complaint. Not because they enjoyed it, but because they respected the law of consistency. Here is the third Stoic law that rewires the brain. Repetition under resistance creates dominance over the self. The first time is painful. The second time is uncomfortable. The third time is tolerable. Eventually, it becomes automatic. Discipline is simply suffering long enough for effort to become normal. Most people quit right before this transition. They mistake discomfort for failure. Stoics knew discomfort was evidence of progress. Your nervous system resists change. That resistance is proof you are breaking old patterns. Stoics trained when it was boring. This is important. Anyone can act when inspired. Only the disciplined act when bored. Boredom is the true test. Because boredom strips away emotion, what remains is character. Here is another harsh realization. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken your own authority. The mind learns, his words don't matter. Stoics guarded their self-promises fiercely. They understood, if you cannot trust yourself, nothing else matters. This is why Stoic discipline feels cold. It is not fueled by excitement, it is fueled by self-respect, and self-respect does not argue with weakness. There is a moment in this process when something inside you shifts. You stop asking, how do I feel, and start asking, what is required? That question is dangerous, because once you adopt it, there is no comfortable way back. You begin to notice something unsettling. You are calmer under pressure, less reactive, less distracted, not because life got easier, but because your tolerance expanded. Stoics did not reduce challenges, they increased capacity. Here is the fourth Stoic law. The disciplined mind does not seek relief, it seeks completion. Relief is temporary, completion is permanent. Completion builds identity, and identity is the strongest motivator there is. This is why Stoics did not need external motivation. They were loyal to who they decided to be. Once identity is fixed, action follows naturally. If you feel resistance reading this, good. Resistance means something inside you does not want to change. Stoics welcomed that resistance, because resistance is the doorway. You do not become disciplined by reading about it. You become disciplined by acting while every part of you resists, and doing it anyway. Let this settle, because once this layer is understood, discipline stops being a struggle and starts becoming who you are. There is a stage where discipline stops being something you do and starts becoming something you are. This is the point most people never reach, because this stage requires you to confront your most protected illusion, that you are entitled to ease. The Stoics destroyed this illusion early. Here is the truth that rewires the mind completely. Life does not reward intention. Life rewards execution under resistance. You can want discipline. You can admire discipline. You can talk about discipline. None of that matters. Only what you do when your body resists decides who you become. This is where Stoic discipline turns brutal. You realize something unsettling. Your biggest enemy is not distraction. It is self-permission. The quiet voice that says, just this once. You deserve a break. Tomorrow will be better. Stoics treated that voice as a traitor, not because rest was evil, but because excuses weaken command over the self. Here is the next Stoic law. If you give yourself exceptions, you give yourself weakness. Exceptions feel harmless, but they train inconsistency, and inconsistency destroys discipline faster than failure ever could. Most people think discipline is about pushing harder. Stoics knew it was about removing choice. When something becomes non-negotiable, the mind stops arguing. No debate, no internal conflict, just action. This is why Stoics structured their lives tightly. Same wake time, same effort, same standards. Not to be rigid, but to eliminate decision fatigue. Because decision fatigue leads to weakness, and weakness invites chaos. Here is something few people are ready to hear. If you rely on willpower, you are already losing. Willpower is finite. Stoics built systems, not motivation. Systems carry you when willpower collapses. There is a moment when the disciplined mind changes texture. You feel it. Tasks stop feeling heavy. Resistance loses its sharpness. Pain becomes informational, not emotional. You are no longer negotiating with effort, you are moving through it. This is where most people misinterpret Stoicism. They think Stoics were emotionless. They were not. They simply refused to let emotion decide action. Feeling tired did not change duty. Feeling bored did not change commitment. Feeling unmotivated did not change identity. Here is the Stoic law that locks this in. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your standards. Goals excite. Standards endure. Stoics did not chase peaks. They raised the floor. Once standards are set, something dangerous happens. You stop caring how you feel. That sentence scares people, but understand it correctly. You still feel emotions, they just don't vote. Action is no longer a democracy, it is command. At this stage, discipline feels almost boring, and that is the sign you are doing it right. Chaos is exciting, control is quiet. Stoics preferred quiet. You also begin to notice something socially strange. People talk about starting. You are already moving. People talk about plans. You are already consistent. People burn out. You don't. Not because you are stronger, but because you removed emotional dependency. Here is the final internal shift before unbreakability. You stop needing intensity to act. Intensity fades, structure remains, and structure always outlives emotion. Most people wait for the perfect mood. Stoics built a mind that did not require one. That is real discipline, not force, not aggression, but unshakable execution. If this feels heavy, good. Heavy things build strong frames, and only strong frames can carry pressure without collapsing. At this level, discipline stops feeling like effort. This is the most dangerous stage, because now your mind obeys you automatically. No arguments, no bargaining, no emotional drama. Action happens before thought finishes forming. This is what the Stoics were after. Here is the truth most people never reach. You do not need more discipline. You need fewer inner conflicts. Most people waste energy fighting themselves. Stoics eliminated the fight. They decided once and executed forever. When discipline becomes identity, something irreversible happens. You stop asking, "Should I do this?" The question disappears. There is only, "This is what I do." And identity is stronger than motivation will ever be. This is why Stoic discipline feels cold to outsiders. They think, "How can you live like that? Don't you get tired? Don't you feel like stopping?" They don't understand something critical. The disciplined mind is less tired, not more. Indecision exhausts, debate exhausts, emotional resistance exhausts, clarity conserves energy. At this stage, pain loses its emotional edge. Pain becomes data. Fatigue becomes information. Difficulty becomes feedback. Pressure becomes calibration. Nothing feels personal anymore. And what isn't personal cannot break you. Here is the final Stoic law that locks everything permanently. You suffer more imagining effort than performing it. Most pain exists before action. Once you move, resistance collapses. Stoics trained themselves to move immediately to kill suffering at its source. This is why they hated procrastination, not because it delayed results, but because it multiplied suffering. Delay stretches pain, action compresses it. Now comes the final transformation. You stop measuring life emotionally. You stop asking, "Did I enjoy today? Was today comfortable? Did I feel motivated?" Those questions disappear. You start asking, "Did I execute? Did I keep my standard? Did I betray myself today?" And that is when self-respect replaces pleasure. Self-respect is a dangerous fuel. It doesn't burn out. It doesn't fluctuate. It doesn't need encouragement. Once you taste it, comfort feels cheap. You also stop explaining yourself. This is important. The disciplined person does not talk much about discipline. They live it. Their calm scares undisciplined minds. Their consistency exposes excuses. Their silence ends arguments. At this point, discipline becomes invisible. People only see the results: stability, calm control, progress. They don't see the inner law that created it, and you don't need them to. This is why Stoics wrote privately, not to teach others, to remind themselves who they were. Because the strongest discipline is discipline that needs no audience. Here is the final internal shift. You stop fearing collapse, because you trust your system. Even if everything falls apart, you know one thing will remain. You will act. Not emotionally, not desperately, correctly. This is what it means to be mentally unbreakable, not invincible, not untouchable, but reliable under pressure. And reliability beats intensity every time. Most people live in cycles: motivation, effort, burnout, guilt, repeat. Stoics broke the cycle. They replaced it with law. Law does not care how you feel. Law executes regardless. If you have understood this fully, you should feel something right now. Not excitement, not inspiration, but quiet certainty. That is discipline settling into the nervous system. Once discipline reaches this stage, breaking you becomes almost impossible, because nothing external has leverage over your behavior. Not pleasure, not pain, not fear, not comfort. This is not self-help. This is self-command. And once you command yourself, nothing else matters.